Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah.
Forever pouring out for that.
Fucking up my whole setup. I'm making it work though.
Dude, so we got the last pod out like literally hours before this episode that we're recording. So we'll probably get this out tomorrow morning, right in time for the whip. Just to give it a little air, a little space for the previous pod, which I thought was perfect. Shout out Dragonade for not cutting out the death to audio problems bit we struggled through in the beginning of that episode too. That was a nice little hilarious intro that he gave us.
My pleasure.
But yeah, excited for the reception of that. See if folks respond, get any critical discussion going on the points that we discussed there with Zora and such. But dude, new week. You've been less thick than I have. Any hot takes coming into this episode? Anything that you've seen that piqued your interest or anything?
Oh man, the typical slew of fucking dumb shit dominating the timeline. Not typical, it's like different depending on the week, man. I feel like we're sort of stuck in this cycle of like just weird news taking up space, man. And Solana had Solana did a great job of disenfranchising anyone who was interested in Solana by going hard sort of socio-politically in one direction with an ad, and then left it out there long enough to piss everybody off, and then they removed it, which pissed everybody off who agreed with their messaging in the first place, right? So I'm here's a great case study in how to alienate everybody all in one fell swoop. Which honestly, I don't know, man. You know how I feel about Solana. It sort of pleases me to watch their marketing team be so tone deaf to the extent of self-destruction in a way. I don't know what's going on over there, man, but that's always sort of been my sentiment of Solana in general, that nobody really knows and not a whole lot is going on over there. And I feel like the longer I'm out here, the more that extends to almost every serious project in the space that it just sort of appeared during some of these hype cycles, man. A lot of them, the longer they're out here, just proven themselves to be empty, inferior, end up disappearing. And the stuff that has stuck around here for a long time, usually ends up being the builder dev shit that's actually the most useful. And I don't know, man. I'm also feeling dude, I'm feeling good NFT vibes too, dude. I'm seeing, I won't even call out their names, but we got the whole host of fucking grifters from 2021 reemerging, talking about how they were right about NFTs the entire time, even though they came out here, did their grift, and then talk shit on NFTs, disappeared for a few years, and now they're back, and so is their audience. So we got some of that going on. But I'm sort of observing myself buying art again, man, and I haven't been just naturally compelled to do that in a while. But it really started with the Lucio Paletti drop, man, and then we had Burson.io on the same week talking about the trees, and they were talking about Felix, and Felix just keeps fucking getting shout outs from every direction, man, unavoidable. And I finally sucked it up, dude. I mean, everyone knows, man, the market has sucked. And I've been a little bit more frugal than I have been, just in terms of minting fun shit, because market has not been cooperating. But I'm dude, I'm not missing out on these fucking palaces, these Cypher dudes palaces. So I minted one of those maybe 3-4 hours before they minted out, and I feel fucking great about it. And then I saw Omas from Meme Explorers community, and OG minted their first piece of like a generative uh, collection on chain on FX Hash, which I haven't like fucked around with in a long time. And I was like, oh, dude, I love FX Hash, and it's Omar's first piece of like generative art, and it was like pretty very, very affordable, compared to some of the other stuff I mentioned and everything. So I grabbed a couple of those, and they're fucking dope. And I'm like, dude, this feels good, man. I like haven't really thrown a lot of money around on illiquid JPEGs in like a long time. But I also feel like I don't know, man. It's sort of something about whatever is happening is making it seem fun again to me, which is like really hard to like inorganically produce, and we've seen a lot of like non-fun times out here, and like my corresponding attitude and everything, but I feel like whatever's going on, man, is like checking some of the boxes for me in terms of like galvanizing some of the artists and some of like the crypto art community momentum and everything, and I like it, man. It's always been sort of like counterculture, and I feel like it's always been very counterculture, but we went through this like weird phase of like gentrification and mainstream-ish adoption and everything, and now it sort of just feels like we're like everyone forgot about us again, and so like the counterculture is like starting to make a little bit of noise, and I'm fucking here for it, man. That shit feels good.
Dude, let me continue that. You shouted out some amazing artists and projects, and I mean, I've never stopped collecting either, but just going through the more recent acquisitions. Same with you. Like I scooped up another bank runner, minted a palace for my name Cypher Dude. Shout out Cypher Dudes and all the palaced Cypher Dudes, the 512 of them that exist, that just sold out after a little over a month. I think yesterday or within the last 48 hours of recording. So like another huge milestone for that project.
We should not underscore how difficult that is to do. I'm sorry, man, not to cut you off, but dude, nothing is out there for a month and is not dead in the water. This motherfucker sold out.
No, and just to throw more flowers to Felix and Benoit, like with bank runners, I keep trying to shout this out as much as possible. We took a lot of inspiration in structuring that project from Cypher Dudes, specifically with the intent to try to have a more longer open mint to help find the collectors where they are, like assuming that it would take a little bit longer for it to click for folks, for them to come and find it, and just appreciating the kind of frequent, regular cadence of a couple collectors every day finding it, some whales coming in, finding it and scooping a lot, just that kind of those magical moments interspersed throughout and across time. Like we loved that feeling. We had a very similar feeling from 0x Did's Ghost in the Machine last year too. But yeah, sure, throwing all the flowers over their way. But coming back, shouting out a few other projects, Elated Pixels, We Are the Metaverse, like the Whip Snapshot. Third week in the row mentioning 0x Ripe from their liquidity layer project. They created an NFT variant that's derived from the Zora Coin project. So the Zora Coin project, people are buying and selling. The buy and sell actions are dynamically updating the underlying like Mona Lisa image that they had appropriated in this like black, red, black aesthetic. And then they went like psychedelic and had an open manifold mint that required folks to burn 1 million of those liquidity layer tokens. 21 folks minted, 21 million tokens burned. Probably going to do it a few more times. I love the experiment, here for it all the time. Our dude Max Osiris has been minting a whole bunch, getting ready for the end of the year Basel Align's crypto art exhibition that he's planning with a whole bunch of folks. So supporting that however I can. Based Forest, was at the Whip recently, minted a couple of those. Jeff Davis from Art Blocks has an open mint called Progression. That's awesome and fun. The Ethereum Foundation is trying to get more voices in talking about things. I think Luke, forgetting his last name, but had an open mint commemorating a thread that was shouting out some notable projects. A bunch of artists over on Tezos, too much to go through, and Rodeo. I've been minting more on Rodeo, and it's been one of those collections along with Tezos that I go back to over time, and it's just like, damn, that collection looks fucking amazing. I wish I could spend more money on the primary for those pieces over there, but I'm going back consistently collecting predominantly from the same artists over and over. So it's sort of like accruing to them with some new artists interspersed throughout there. But Rodeo is starting to present itself as a better alternative, like a better speed, I guess. And maybe that's why we're seeing a lot of folks start to stand up and say, hey, like collecting NFTs is more fun than the shitcoin racket, right? I've been saying this for a little bit, but the speed, the different speeds that collecting these e-liquid JPEGs versus the hyperliquid, like quick to rise but quicker to crash shitcoins present. It's just it's a better experience for the soul in our digital everyday lives. There's less of that pressure to kind of constantly monitor charts afterwards. Like we were talking about last week, you're not monitoring a chart with these NFTs. Like you're going back ideally and like looking at the art. Maybe it has offers on it like Lucho and Bank Runners, like above the original mint prices. But if not, you got some cool art in your collection that hopefully you're building out, and maybe it's starting to look better and better to you over time. But shout out all the artists and all the creators that are zagging when everyone else has been zigging, releasing work via NFTs. It's a much more enjoyable experience.
Yeah, dude. I was, thinking to myself, like, if there were going to be some NFT grails of the past, this past cycle or this current cycle, whatever we're in, and to this day, dude, I'm continuously kicking myself for getting priced out of Gazers and looking at that mint and fumbling it because I didn't realize it was a Dutch auction that was going to go down. That I was, and I still think about that, man, from a purely like art perspective, because I'm like, dude, there's like a couple things like that I've missed out on over the years that I'm like, shit, dude, as like someone who's like as deeply entrenched as I am and just appreciates the space, I fucking should have one of those. And so, that was like a thought experiment that I've been running. I'm like, dude, this cycle goes by, I'm still out here a few years from now. I'm like, when am I going to look back on this time and be like, fuck, dude, I really wish I didn't miss the boat on whatever. And obviously you never really know that because, the market behaves how it does, man. But I'm like, fuck, dude, if Cypher Dudes and the Palaces is not a grail from this cycle along the, same lines as Gazers, along the same lines as like some of these really like top tier grails, like, what the fuck are we really doing out here, right? I'm like, this is like, embodies so much of like what crypto art has always been, and fundamentally to the community that really brought it to light and everything. That I felt good about it, man. I'm like, dude, if I eat this, just like you said, this ends up being an illiquid JPEG. In my head, it doesn't really matter, man, because I'm like, dude, this is like some shit, dude, and it's one of the pieces out here that you can tell it's, again, man, to compare it to Gazers, man, that's not a collection that like no thought went into. It's a fucking work of art, and it's a collection that's a work of art that deserves to be respected and treated as such. And that's very much how I feel about this, dude. So I'm like, fuck, I am not gonna let this go by, and I'm watching the palaces get minted, and the numbers go up. I'm like, all right, I need to scratch together some funds and make sure I got one of these, and don't do this thing that I always do and watch myself get priced out of a grail. And no regrets, man. Like, win, lose, or draw financially. I think the other thing that feels really good right now is, we've hit this like sort of vibe in the past, man, where the numbers have tanked so badly that it feels like the community that's here no matter what sort of hits a point where they're just like, you know what? We're all broke and fuck it. Let's just go buy some of each other's NFTs and like have some fun again and just start doing shit because everything else is on fire and it doesn't really matter. And usually the upswings are sort of birthed from like that type of mentality. And it does sort of feel like we're getting back to that now. People are just sort of, getting back to their roots a little bit. So, and like pure like crypto art roots, which has been indicative of some of these like recent drops I've scooped. So it's good shit, man.
Yeah, on that last point too, like the folks, the friends, the communities that have sort of stuck around and been through a few cycles here with us. I've been thinking about that, and that's that. And you touched on something related, like talking about some of the top of the show, referencing like a lot of the projects, or the handfuls of projects that have sort of like stuck around, been doing things here, being super limited. And part of that was spawned by Joel from Scent Days, tagging a whole bunch of us, just giving us shout outs, like reminiscing about the old Scent Days of yore, going back to 2018, 2019, early 2020. And it had me in my feels, number one, reminiscing about that golden era. But then it had me thinking a little bit deeper. And it really took me to kind of thinking through, like at a zoomed out lens, crypto, pre-crypto, or pre-COVID rather, and post-COVID. And like really thinking about like that as the demarcation line for
Yeah.
projects that are kind of battle tested versus projects that came after COVID that were in the hype cycle, riding VC cash flows, largely crashing out, right? And then thinking about, okay, of the pre-COVID cohort, like who's still here with us? Like what projects even do I use? Like what communities do I continue to kind of either like vibe with, like meet up with on the regular, or bump shoulders with and see frequently on the timeline? And it's not a long list. Like I was trying to be pretty exhaustive with it, but I was just like, holy shit, this is not long.
Yeah.
And I segmented it into like specific chains or like layer twos or whatever, projects, communities. And on the chain side, it's like there's Ethereum. and then barely like Bitcoin and Tezos. But if I'm being honest, like with Bitcoin and Tezos, the only reason I interact with either of those is because of art. That's been the only reason. Like Bitcoin, it's digital gold. I don't ever want to touch that, but some artists have released inscriptions over there, collect their ordinals. And then Tezos, like nothing else is going on over there besides art. Like that is the art chain. But like there's nothing else that like is pre-COVID that I come remotely close to even touching on the chain side. Projects and communities, it's equally slim pickings. I don't want to get too long and ranty and going too deep there, but want to pass the mic to you, see if that stimulates anything before maybe going deeper into these waters.
No, go deeper, dude. I'm curious to hear what you have to say about the projects and everything, because you're right. It's slim pickings.
Yeah, I mean, on the project side, like for projects that I use, and there may be some gaps here, but let's go through this. Like we got Super Rare, right?
Yep,
And
that's
part
one
and
of the first
parcel with
ones came
Super
to
as a project are like the early artists.
Yep.
And I bundled in there Josie and Joy, like folks that very consciously have been minting early, but like
Yep.
were more independent, and the early collectors from there. I think that's a special cohort of folks that you still see. Most of them are artists too.
Yep.
A lot of those folks are still present in some shape, way, or form. OpenSea, of course, for better or worse. I think
Yep.
for better, but like is always
Right.
glass half full of thumb, it seems. We got ENS, right? MetaMask is still kicking. I use this Coinbase wallet, which was originally the Cypher wallet back in the day before they acquired that, right? For better or worse, again. Same
Right.
thing with Uniswap.
Right.
Nifty Gateway is arguable, right? Like the
Yep.
V2 launched like post COVID, early 2020, but I mean they existed as the payment option in
Right.
2019, right? They were speakers of NFT NYC. So like they got in by a technicality, but like they're still here too. And Sam Spratt, the Masquerade is like a huge, obvious, like recent high water mark on that front. So I counted them in. Safe via Gnosis existing before as a prediction market. It's sort of like a technicality too. Recent issues, not the greatest.
I love this deep dive, man.
Yeah. And like crypto voxels, like we were there a couple weeks ago. Again, it's sort of like an asterisk on there. You know what I mean? But like that's sort of exhausting. Like I can't. I
Decentraland,
maybe miss.
probably.
Yeah, I
Maybe
had two
just
question marks next to them. I had two
yeah.
question marks next to them because they went live like right at the beginning. The land sale was a little bit earlier, and they opened
Right.
up like it, it's arguable, but like all right, we'll throw it their way. Like CV and DCL, like heavily
Right.
asterisked.
It was like the start of Sandbox being like saying they're going to be live for like 4 years until they went live.
Yeah, that was like the beginning of their like 1,000 however many land sales they had. That was crazy. Like Somnium Space, I don't think had launched them, but anyway, I definitely don't use them anymore. But yeah, like project wise, man, like am I missing anything? Or are there any other pre-COVID crypto projects that you're using on the regular? IPFS there as a question mark in the background, like we rely on it. Like it's not something I mean, I guess I download some assets from there, but like that's a different one that I don't personally interact with. It's sort of obfuscated, so
Right.
hard to count, but still sort of there. But I guess you could say pinata too, but like again, not something I'm directly interacting with. Anything else, man?
It's a pretty good list, man. Top of my head, I'm sure there's like a couple things out there. I'm just like thinking as you're saying this, I would be interested in sort of like seeing a cross section of the people who have stuck around. Like, obviously, we're getting into stats that are like impossible to track and everything, but like pre-COVID, post-COVID, like retention rates of people in the community, because I feel like another thing that happened is, a lot of people from early days sort of went different directions, started their own things. Some worked, some didn't, but a lot of them are like still out here in like one capacity or another, and maybe working on newer stuff or just, independent or something at this point. Yeah, man, I always think about that, just there being like a much different mentality coming into this space early on than there was later on, and the type of people who who are more inclined to stick around, kind of thing. And I feel like retention rates have just, there's a sort of a inverse correlation with, the money flowing into the ecosystem and the retention rates of like serious builders and creators doesn't seem to be going up correspondingly. It almost seems to be going the other direction, or like net neutral. It seems like we're struggling to get people in here for the reasons that a lot of us got here for in the first place. And I don't know, man. It's sort of crazy to think that you could just rattle off a quick list like that of the only things that were around, or the only things that are still around from then.
Yeah, and like again, there are a few folks from projects that were early that are still present. But I think this list is really instructive because and this sort of
The whip,
dovetails with
the
the
whip should be on the
conversation that
list, obviously.
we didn't get to communities yet or
Oh, okay, okay.
mafia.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Keep going.
yeah, but like sort of dovetailing with the part of the conversation that we ended on with last week's episode that we just released yesterday. What we were talking there briefly about the conversation that I had over in the Purple app, where a lot of the new entrants to the space that are coming in,
Yeah.
their main lived on-chain experience is like on base, on layer 2, or like on Solana, right? They don't really grok what happened over on Ethereum mainnet. Their introduction to NFTs, for example, is dramatically different. Coming in super late on a layer 2, seeing like real cheap JPEGs sold, no real nothing on the regular to speak of when it comes to secondary or dramatic appreciation, seeing folks from, for example, like the punks community come in and them viewing it as like overpriced JPEGs, like a sword from an old computer game that no one plays anymore. So like the value collectability is just like non-existent. Like looking at the space, NFTs specifically, I guess, it's just taking one example as kind of like a litmus test for how big a gap is in terms of perception that exists. And I'm like, how do you like, what's a way to kind of counter that? How do you sort of present them with a different perspective?
Mhm.
And you do that by pointing them in the direction of projects that have been here, been building, and are still here, that have been informed by multiple cycles in crypto writ large, let alone specifically in like their own sector, right?
Mhm.
This is how you start to sort of open up eyes and minds to embrace like more of the history, I guess you can say. Um, and that's sort of where the list making came from. It's like trying to help open minds and eyes. Like we do that by highlighting the history, and you do that by showing folks that hey, part of that history at least is still alive from the builders that have been building across that time. That's where I wanted to go with that.
Yeah, dude. I meant to mention this the other week, and so the post that Basilius made is probably like a few weeks old, or maybe it's a reply or something to someone that was basically giving encouragement to a crypto artist that and saying that essentially, and I apologize to Basilius if I'm like butchering his sentiment here, but what I took from it was basically like reassuring them that even if they're having a difficult time out here now, that this is still like history in the making, and we're going to reach a point where AI is going to be able to crawl through this history and like sort of set it all straight in the way that a lot of us have, maybe I'm projecting here, myself included, just sort of like really irked and miffed about like the way that the history of the space has sort of been like rewritten over the course of like the last few years, and a lot of it has been like obfuscated or like pushed under the rug. And for some reason I hadn't really thought about it before, but I don't know. I like that sort of like silver lining here, where that even if us as a community and the people who started all this shit aren't able to like collectively make enough noise in the way that our culture has sort of functioned up until this point in order to like make yourself relevant. We've actually got some tech to lean on that will potentially set the record straight in an objective way, because it's all on the blockchain and everything down the line. So I'm like, shit, dude. It's nice with all this fucking dystopian tech and shit going on. It is nice to consider some applications of it that actually reward and enhance the community that was really foundational in building a lot of this stuff, and including a lot of these people and projects that you just mentioned that are still out here. So I like that, man. I like that take by Basilius, because even now, man, it's it's something that I struggle with. Last week talking about like what's on the timeline currently taking up everybody's like mind space and everything out here, and just not feeling like it's the stuff that we should be talking about. And yeah, man, maybe the text sort of saves us from ourselves at some point and gets our talking points straight.
Yeah, shout out Basilius. I think what you're just talking about is spot on. The permanence of our history is definitely a huge help, but also like I think we can't talk about it enough. We can't storytell enough, and we can't kind of highlight the living history that's still around enough on that point. But also sort of like continue on like the community side that you're just sort of referencing too. It's sort of a short list, and part of these are I kind of framed it as like living communities that are still here active, and then mafias, which are a little bit more dispersed. I guess is probably how I'm thinking through like the mafia framework, sort of like PayPal Mafia, like the original members of that founding project are not at PayPal anymore, but like
Mhm.
their impact it continues to reverberate. It's sort of like when I say a mafia, that's sort of what I mean.
Right.
But like the living communities that are still around, impactful, starting with us, dude. Like the whip. Like, come on. Like,
That's it, man.
like technically, late 2019, the first whip, and then like before COVID was official, like we had our first episodes and all that good stuff. So we're firmly in that pre-COVID community mix. Axie continues to
Mm.
stay alive, right? Rare Pepe, like,
Yep.
and that cuts across time in like a deep way.
Yeah, it does.
They're hugely impactful. Of course, punks. Like
Yep.
they continue to, and they're very interesting in terms of like the new member entrance. Like you get a punk, all of a sudden you're a thought leader, like waxing poetic on the timeline, super deep, has a magical impact on folks and their social media presence. But then the mafias, like CryptoKitties Mafia, which has ties with Axie, obviously, but like Poopy back in the day, like going into Doodles. Shout out Jim McNallis and everything that he had been doing. Wishing him all the best, all that good stuff, and everyone else that sort of got their early community start in NFTs via CryptoKitties. I think that's
Yeah.
still hugely important and still relatively underappreciated in terms of like the members,
Agree.
everyone that was involved there. Coinbase Mafia. If you go anywhere these days, especially on the startup front, it's create like almost everyone is ex early Coinbase. Easiest example to pull on Dan Romero, Firecaster, and like everyone, everyone on the team feels like ex CB at this point, but they go deep, and they like it's again, it's like a prestigious university that folks graduate from if they're early over there. 0x Mafia is another mafia that continues to pop up. I know Steve Klabanoff, we talk about multiple weeks in a row. It's from that more technical project. There's other individuals that not remembering names from, but the 0x project has been hugely, even more underappreciated, under discussed in our space, probably than CB or CryptoKitties in particular. And then the Scent Mafia, and I tie in Scent Mafia with additional, because
Mhm.
both of those projects like don't really exist anymore, but both of them had a really strong shared kinship, if not a direct open partnership, that the artists and a lot of the early folks participating on there have had a huge impact on the space and kind of live on and sort of merged honestly with the whip at this point.
Yeah.
But largely as individuals that are independent, doing their own thing and making their own waves in the space. But outside of those communities, like I'm sure I'm missing a few more, but again, like pre-COVID communities that are still here, still sort of relevant, still doing their thing, having an impact. Again, it's not a huge pool. And I think
Yeah.
that's really important to think through and like what that means and implications there and where to look for when it comes to uncertainty in the market, right? There's a lot of talking heads, a lot of loud voices, but like which ones can you look for to have some like reliable balanced takes? Like these are the lists, in my personal opinion, that you look for.
Yeah, dude, and I think that's a fucking good list. I also, quick side note, man, I just want to say it feels like Warpcast is like turning into what Scent like should have been or should have like
Yeah.
morphed into all this time. It's like starting to like really have that vibes. But this dude, I would also throw in like the OG crypto art mafia, man, and I feel like that's part of what's been like really inspiring to me lately is that I feel like there hasn't been like a lot of rumblings from that mafia until recently, man. But like those are the people who sold out Lucio Paletti's drop, right? These aren't like the people who are coming in from the outside. And we're seeing some like big isolated sales like in NFTs and crypto art and everything, but there aren't a whole lot of people fucking selling out collections like Felix, and these fucking cipher palaces weren't cheap, and the people who are scooping these things up are a lot of familiar faces from like back in the day, like you know what I mean. And honestly, man, that was one of the reasons why I like sort of started to get excited as well about these projects, because I'm like, shit, dude, the fucking it felt like the band is getting back together, man. I'm like, everyone is sort of looking at this thing and is agreeing that sort of unspokenly, but like the crypto art mafia from back in the day had like sort of selected a couple projects. And again, man, it's not like a spoken thing, and across a lot of these like quote unquote mafias, it hasn't been, man. You see the Crypto Kitties mafia sort of pop out periodically, and it's not organized, but there's a lot of people who made a lot of like deep connections back then. And same with the crypto art scene, man. And it's inspiring. I feel like that community functions in a different microcosm than the larger crypto art community and some of these like larger whales and collectors that come in from the outside or have sort of entrenched themselves in like some capacity in the community. But it's hard to put out a project where you can really galvanize that like OG crypto art mafia like Lucio Paletti did, like Felix did. And so, to see a few people like be able to tap into that and to see the response from that community be really fucking strong, feels really good, man. I wasn't really expecting it, but it I don't know. It seems like we got some good momentum.
Yeah, and I think that's a good call out, like with a crypto art community framing. From my take, I had sort of viewed that, especially like within the context of the bank runners, collectors, a large cross section of like super rare and like the early artists slash collectors over there. Large cross section from like additional Scent Mafia, like honestly, like punks and Rare Pepe and Crypto Kitties, like a lot of early folks that have been around there, like they all sort of hopped in between that, and crypto voxels, especially OG early crypto voxels, like huge representation from all those in particular is sort of how I was thinking about it. But I think you're right. And I think over time, the sort of like the grouping of who the early crypto art community, just like for lack of a better framing, I think will become more apparent and more emergent. And maybe that's across time how a lot of these different projects and maybe more specifically communities sort of blend together in more like easy to remember, like shorter lists, which is crypto art, early crypto art community. But yeah, that's super sharp point.
Yeah, it's good to see, man. It felt for a while. I don't know. I mean, we were just talking about how fragmented everything has become, and it's just sort of the nature of the space expanding and everything. And so I don't know, man. I always like think back of when I was a kid, man, and everyone, just by nature of the way video games were like rolling out at the time, everyone, when a new game came out, like everyone ended up getting the same hot game and everyone was like playing the same game and like talking about the same thing. And, internet culture and video game culture and everything, grew, a lot of that became fragmented, and everyone was sort of like, off playing things that were like more specifically interested to them, and this and that. And to just keep going with this analogy, man, it sort of feels like everyone's sort of getting back to like remembering the same games that we all liked in the first place, and everyone sort of went to like fuck around and tinker around with different things. But I don't know, man. These few projects really felt like a homecoming in a crypto art community in a way that I'm probably like, not thinking of people projects, but it just seems like we've been starving for shit like this. And when fed, people show up to eat. So I like that, man. And it feels like, we need more of that shit.
Yeah. And with Cypher Dudes, I think they're helping to show the importance of continuing to build mind share, right? Like they're growing. Like if you go back to like 2019 when people released things, or like especially on the art side, there were one-offs, right? Maybe someone was doing a slow release, like multi-work rollout, but it was very, very early, very experimental. Now that the space has matured quite a bit, they've evolved, right? There's a level step in their approach. It's not simply releasing the base Cypher Dudes and that's it. They continue to talk about it. They continue to grow interest in it. They continue to build the collection. Palaces is like the best example. Like same thing with Lucha with Bank Runners. It's like, yeah, Bank Runners is out there, but now that it's all out there, it's like, oh man, all these other doors and avenues are unlocked. And we're thinking about like a more longer term approach to this, like keeping the magic growing and keeping folks excited, and ideally growing the community a little bit more with cool things like having Lucho on last week, like presenting and talking more about like the project and sort of ideas we're tinkering around with, and then opening it up to the community and folks asking about something we hadn't even considered but was like fucking obvious in retrospect, about like the VRM side of things. We're like, holy shit, we got to investigate that on top of the other things that we're already thinking about. It's that sort of multi-layered, multi-chapter approach that, as like you don't have to be the most well-funded, like biggest, most notable projects, multi-collaboration, what, like you can be an independent project, an independent artist for that matter, thinking through things on this like larger time scale, with this like larger base of emerging, growing collectors that are forming that community around it. When zoomed out and like compared across times and like the differences and the evolution, it becomes really apparent really quickly how much things have changed. And again, it really creates that more manageable bucket or lists of projects and people to look for like, oh shit, like where's the space going? How are things evolving? Which is how we build, which is how we grow. Not just in our own neck of the woods, but for everyone that's here at this point, and everyone that's not here yet, but will be here at some point in the near future.
Yeah, dude. I really feel like it's a really, this is going to sound weird maybe at first, but I feel like it's a really fucking good sign that Felix's Palaces did not sell out right away, but it took a month, because there's so much glomming on to the shiniest thing in the hopes of like flipping it a second later. I feel like now, like more than ever. And so, and that's what I was saying earlier, man. I'm like, dude, especially in this climate, it's really fucking hard to like put something out there, and if it doesn't sell through in a couple days, your shit is dead in the water for like 99.9% of like anything you're putting out there right now. So for him to like put that out there and it take a month to sell out, but also it being like a slow burn for that entire month up until that point, I'm like, it's a different that project attracted a different caliber of person that is typically throwing money at a lot of these projects right now in the hopes of like making a buck, right? Like the first 300 people or so out of 500 bought these palaces not knowing if they're going to sell out, not knowing if they're going to just have it to have it, but they wanted it anyway, and that's the risk anyone takes buying an NFT that's halfway sold out, 2 weeks out of the gate or whatever, right? You're like, I might be stuck with this thing, so I better fucking want it. And a lot of people made that decision, and I feel like you're spot on, dude, and exactly what you said. Like, people can take this more methodical approach and build out like more fleshed out projects. But shit, dude, if we don't have any good examples of people like doing that currently, like, it all sounds good and we can like draw examples of the past, but in the meantime, everyone's just fucking dumping meme coins and everything. So I feel like we really needed this, like his slow sellout, almost as proof that like, hey man, there's people out here who are just fucking straight up collecting dope shit, and that category isn't gone. Maybe step our game up to serve up doper shit, to tap into it. But I don't know, man. That felt good. I'm like, that's something I haven't seen for a long time. Again, maybe there's stuff off my radar, but I'm like, that shit doesn't happen unless you've curated a really good group of collectors who appreciate your shit.
No, like the real example matter, right? Like, to your point, like you can talk about the theory of it, but if you don't have like the concrete examples of artists actually getting to that point across time, like to that sellout point with a project that continues to live on, it doesn't matter. But like, also that's the reason why we're talking about this, because we got these real examples in Cypher Dudes, in Cypher Dudes palaces, in Lucia Paletti's bank runners. Honestly, I would put Matt Cain and his Anons project, which is an intentionally like long-term slow release type of project, that there's multiple one-of-ones and like derivatives that he's been releasing and selling as collectors find the auctions and trigger it, right? There's a real deliberateness to that release strategy that I'd highlighted it feels like forever ago. I'm sure it's like a year and a half ago though, when he kicked that project off. But there's artists that had started to try to intentionally counter the drop type approach, where it's like, it's here, it's either going to sell out or it's a fail, right? And there's artists that have been really being intentional about it, but again, it's hard. Like when you don't get that sellout, even if you go into a release and it's like, I'm okay if it doesn't sell out, but afterwards, like a lot of folks, for worse, will take it as a negative sign, and they'll stop talking about their project that didn't sell out, and it'll fade from memory, and like it will go under. Yeah, people just forget it straight up, and you'll forget it too, and it'll be gone, and it's sort of like a sad state of affairs. People may remember it and say, "Oh shit, that was a cool project, didn't sell out," but then it'll be forgotten again. It takes a different type of muscle, a different type of approach to be in it for the long run, and to keep coming back to it. But that's also like more flowers for Cypher Dudes and Palaces.
Yeah,
they built in so much complexity to that it's almost easy to come back to it, right? And even with bank runners, like there's so much richness and symbolism. It's so symbol rich and heavy that we're like, it's going to look cool over time. Every one of these are unique. Every time and any of these come out, there's something special that we can highlight and think through. Like, that was the approach going into it. Again, taking yet another chapter out of the epic novel that Felix and Benoit have been writing in real time with us with Cypher Dudes. So I think that's a huge important point to flag.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's this has been sort of like a bag shilling episode, which I just realized ago, that since we're both both talking about how dope pieces we collected are, but we don't do that much, man, and rightfully so, dude. I mean, these are people who, I'm holding their. Dude, I don't even consider it bags, right? It's sort of like a shitty term, especially like in the context of crypto.
These are projects, man. These are projects.
Yeah, dude, I didn't.
Right? You
It's
can't
just
do this with shit coins. What are you gonna
right,
do? Oh, my fucking Mog coin, bro. Like, you
right.
see, I got my Mog. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, you can't talk about it in the same vein. Again, crypto projects with utility get into different territory. Different.
Yeah,
That's more akin to projects, right? But anyway.
No, absolutely, man. It's a shitty like trivializing term for art, but also one that like is easily thrown around community and just from being out here and everything. But no, man, these feel different, and I didn't collect them for that reason, and I will probably do the same thing that I always do if I end up with an NFT that goes up like significantly in value, but that I'm emotionally attached to, and I'll fucking round trip it and and not be too mad because again, man, I'm very similar to you and very similar to like a lot of the people who came into this scene early on that I was like a fucking fan of this space, man, and the creators who are doing interesting shit and their whole take on things and everything. And so when stuff comes out that like actually checks that box for me that I'm just a super fan of, I don't know, man, it feels good. So yeah, man, it's not about bags. It's about the art. Believe it or fucking not, man. And I think a lot of us out here, do actually embody that and stick by that. Dude, I wanted to, speaking of that, dude, I need to shout out Barbara Love at Barbie's Love, who's been making fucking memes out of me for the last like couple weeks, and I dropped one at the whip last week and everything. And she's one of these independent artists who's like been out here forever trying to get her own thing off the ground, helping people create content and using me for an example right now. And the cult crypto art, I don't know if that was like officially formed pre-COVID and everything, man, but that's another community that she's a part of, a lot of us are peripherally a part of, that is consistently out here and sinking their teeth into shit. And a lot of people from, if it wasn't like technically a thing from back in the day, most of the people who are involved in it are from back in the day. So shout out to them, man, and fucking Barbie for keeping the art shit going. We need this shit, dude.
We do. We're at the top of the hour, over the top of the hour. You want a quick shout out? The whip tomorrow, we got Bay Backner coming through, which, I mean, folks that know the whip and they hear Bay Backner is coming through, like they know what to expect. Highly produced, tons of love, bunch of energy, and Decentraland. But any other details to share on that front?
No, you a little bit. I mean, Bay, man, it's like our CL feel like, so she's always looking out for us and trying to schedule some things that dovetail with the whip. So huge shout out to Bay. Yeah, we got a good run of show for the whip, and it's gonna be dope. And we got Una on the following week with the full 40 minutes. So that will also be a dope one. We're gonna line that shit up.
Boom. There we go. See everyone at the whip tomorrow. Dude, good shit.
Hell yeah.
That memory lane and thinking through and analyzing a little bit of this little space of ours.
Yeah, good shit, dude. I'll see you at the whip.
Dragonate's mom, Dragonate, thank you both kindly for sticking with us.
Pulling all the levers in the back room.
Later, y'all.
Good shit. There you go.